What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
And my name's Sean. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And right now we're talking about Servant, the series so far. Season 2 just wrapped up. Brad, what?
Nice.
What do you think about this so far, man? I know we got some questions for each other.
We do have some questions for each other, but I don't know anything. I just know that I watched this show. I've enjoyed it the whole time, and I am baffled, overwhelmed, underwhelmed, excited, bored. Every single solitary emotion I feel like goes through my head whilst watching a season of this. This show is something else, I'll tell you. I'm going to bust out my first question and ask you, this is a spoiler review, spoiler conversation. So if you haven't watched Servant, just go watch it. It's only 20 episodes that are like 22 minutes each or something like that. The last episode was like 30 minutes, and I couldn't believe it. It's the longest episode of the series, I think. I just want to come right out the gate and ask you, is there a good guy on this show?
Man, I have a very similar question, but is there a good guy on this show? Maybe.
Or who do you hate the least?
Maybe Ron's girlfriend, the weird clairvoyant lady.
She's a realist.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably the person that has committed the least amount of atrociousness throughout this series. So I'm going to go with her. I'm sorry, I don't know her name off the top of my head. She hasn't really been in this season that much. I would have said...
Natalie.
Yeah, and I would have said the little guy, the guy from the Spider-Man movies, you know, that's kind of Leanne's boyfriend, but he did something in this season that was kind of bad. I mean, he took her from that house. I know that he didn't plan on kidnapping her, but he still made the choice in the end. What did you think of the beginning of this?
Sorry, just to try to interrupt you, but if it sounds like there's like waterfalls around me, I wish there was, but it's actually my family flushing the toilet right like 10 feet above me upstairs, so
just constantly
I'm not in the tropics. Yeah, that's all they do when I'm trying to record. Go ahead, sorry.
It's all right. So what did you think about the beginning of season 2 without Leanne specifically? You know, it's kind of weird.
I thought the show drug a little bit without Leanne and without her like living in the house. I don't know if she had like other acting responsibilities that she was like tending to, or if they just wrote her out of the show for the beginning. I guess that's probably what happened. It just really brought the freaking weirdness out of the other two. You know, they did throw some flashbacks in the beginning of the season to kind of help fill out the time, and some of the episodes were really flashbacky, just showing their kind of what their life was like when they had a baby for a little while, I feel like. But the beginning of the season drug, but it wasn't a disaster without Leanne. But whenever she showed back up in the show, I was relieved for the show. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yes. Every time I hear Dorothy say, "Sean!" it gives me just anxiety because my name is Sean.
God. And I just... Speaking of anxiety, there you go. There's a waterfall around me. Yeah, I forgot that's your name. And also his name.
Yeah.
So, I apologize. Sometimes my wife calls me Dorothy, and so whenever Sean in the show says Dorothy, it really throws me for a loop. But, anxiety. Question, this we're stretching back a little bit. Were you bummed or let down that there was not a supernatural like occurrence that brought Jericho back in the first season, and then it was just a swap baby situation? What were you wanting the show to do? Were you wanting this freaky supernatural road, or were you happy to have a very believable and easy to explain away first season? No, that's the main plot of the show.
Yeah, I mean, so I wanted them, I think me and you kind of talked about this when we were getting ready for the second season, is that you were hoping that they would just go all in on the supernatural stuff. And that's kind of what I was hoping for too. I know M. Night Shyamalan likes to subvert expectations in a good way, though, not like Rian Johnson. And you know, have twists in there and everything. But I was really, really expecting some epic supernatural stuff to happen, and it never really happens. I mean, at the end of season 1, the whole cult disappears, but we got no explanations for any of that stuff. And I'm still not sure that it was just a swap baby situation, because I didn't know. I was gonna ask you, was season 1 Jericho real, or was it just a swap baby situation? Because then in the ending of this, Leanne's holding a new
somebody's
baby.
back. Is it a different baby? He looked different to me. He was super cute. I know that.
That's what. Somebody's playing possum somewhere.
Yes. I will also answer my own question and say that, yes, you are right. I wanted it to be lean all the way in. It's M. Night Shyamalan. You're usually expecting something that's out there, but also sort of attached kind of to reality, or something, and a reality that could exist. I would say that it disappointed me. And then season 2 not leaning into really either hard, just kind of a loosely abandoned the swap baby plot for half the season or more, and loosely abandoned the dead baby plot. So I'm like, what are we doing? But I would say I was bummed. What other questions you got for me?
So I texted you after, I think, the second to last episode. I said, do you feel bad for Uncle George? I never really got an answer from you, so I wanted to know, did you feel bad for Uncle George?
Was a jaded cat, for sure. I don't really know what he believes. I don't know if he knows what he believes. I feel like he's devoted to a cause, for sure. I feel like he got dominated by a sedan a couple episodes ago. And I feel like Leanne did that. So, I do feel bad for Uncle George. He's very committed and very well acted, okay? What in the world? I'm just like watching this show, and I just look over my wife. She usually has fallen asleep, okay? She's exhausted. But when she hasn't fallen asleep yet, I look over and be like, what is this? Like, how do you squeeze so much freakiness into 20 minutes of television?
And it's not anything you're expecting, or
no,
it's just complete opposite of what you're thinking is going to happen, or nothing will happen.
True, it does subvert your expectations in a good way. Yeah, that's one thing I do want to say about Servant. Not yet once has the show done what I thought, and for that, it gets extra thumbs for me in my thumb rating. I know when I'm watching Servant that I'm getting something fresh. We kind of briefly glossed over that yesterday on the phone. Name me a show like Servant. Nothing.
I never thought I would watch a show that takes place entirely in a house. That's gonna.
Yeah, that's my next question. I'm kind of stealing your question from the other day. Is the show gonna leave the house?
I don't think so. If they've gone 2 seasons now, where this is what it's about. Like, the house is like a character almost. And it's just inside this family's life and the crappiness and these people. So I don't think that it's gonna, not for any significant amount of time at least, because I mean, we have had like little snippets of them being outside of the house, but it all mainly takes place in the house. It's where all the visitors come and everything. So I don't think we're gonna get a chunk of the show outside. I might be wrong. We can come back to that later if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But,
I think that I'm sorry. M. Night Shyamalan is sort of known for. I know M. Night Shyamalan is sort of known for being wise with his funds when he works, especially in the last what 3 or 4 movies. He used his own money, and I know that he's just producing this. I imagine he's very much managing the financial part of the show, and they've got actors that are good, but mostly unknown. I mean, Rupert Grint is still riding high off Deathly Hallows 2, I feel like, and Toby Kebbell or whatever was in some stuff, and other than that, I never seen him. But one thing I want to say about this show that has gotten better is the first half of the first season. Its filming style, the dialogue, the acting was so jarring. I think we watched those first couple episodes together, I think, in North Carolina, and it was just like, I don't think I can watch this. This is so weird, the way it was shot, and every line that Dorothy character delivered just gave me chills. They've sort of balanced that out, but I'm not trying to hog the show here. What else you got for me?
No, yeah, I mean, she was definitely really annoying and crazy. She's gotten more bearable, but I think that the acting is good. I think that the artistic, like, camera shots and everything is really cool. Anytime Sean is in the kitchen cooking, I'm really loving those scenes, whether it's like disgusting or not. I'm liking it.
Always disgusting.
Oh my gosh, Brad. This isn't really a question because we already talked about it, but that scene where Rupert Grint or whatever, where he's doing cocaine, it brought me into that situation. I was so anxious throughout that whole sequence, and I just wanted it to end, but I couldn't look away.
Yes.
I don't know, man. What did you think about that?
I mean, I've never done that much cocaine in one night, that's for sure.
You thought about it after that, though.
I've thought about it, yeah, after that. I was watching it, this is a PG-13 and overrated show, right? We have to mark the box that says this is not for kids. I'm a drug-free guy. But, he takes those first couple lines, and you're like, okay, that's cocaine. And then he does, 15 more. And you're like, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. And every single one he did, I was like, this is gonna end super badly. And sure enough, he's lucky he wasn't positioned to conk his head on the tub, because he'd be done. I guess he was done. He'd been double done if he had hit his head on the tub. And then what happens? Freak Show just walks up to him and punches him in the chest one time, and he back.
Yeah.
And then his dad ratted him out. His dad was like, maybe this was part of the problem to the cops. That was savagery.
I mean, he needs help. The dude chugs wine every episode, so maybe that was the best thing.
They consume in a 22-minute episode like $3,000 worth of food and beverage every episode. I'm like, what is happening? As I drink my free water from my
how they afford this. He must make a lot of money as a chef. But Brad, who's the true villain of this show?
The villain of this show, that's a good question because it actually leads me into my last question. The villain of this show is the enablers. It's a serious problem on this show. The villain, like when I want it to be the crazy wife, the villain really is Sean and Julian, in my opinion. And that's a perfect segue into my last question. I don't know what you have left, but how do you tell this lady what's going on? I mean, we were right there on the precipice of it, and I'm like, finally, we're going to just rip the Band-Aid off this thing. And then there's a freaking crying baby, and this is a problem, okay? Yeah. How do you do... So, first of all, I would hope you would have done it by now, but if you hadn't, what would you do right now if you were Sean in the show?
Right now. Dude, he's in too deep because they have another baby. So it's like, it's like the big fib, once you tell a little lie and then somebody asks questions about it, it turns into a bigger lie and and eventually it's so big that you don't know what to do. And that's the point that we're at right now. because
this is a disaster.
Because he cannot tell her that he's not a real baby because there's a baby in front of her. So he had his chance. I think that the enablers are the villains. I agree with you there, and that's the point of this show. I think is going to be in the end about that, and also about just learning to cope with tragedy in life. You know. But man, I don't know what advice to give him because you can't really rip the Band-Aid off anymore. So
talk faster next time that you're going to break some news to somebody.
Yes. Yeah. I guess they could, but it's not the best time. But that's all I have.
You got some thumbs for this thing?
Yes, I have some thumbs for this thing. Series so far, I'm going to give it 8.5 thumbs up because it's only brought down a little bit because nothing really has happened. You know, it's kind of the same stuff over and over, but I love it, every second of it. I'm doing 8.5 just because I wish there was a little bit more of explanation of things. You know, they're giving us little breadcrumbs here and there, but that's what I'm going with, Brad. What do you got for me?
The problem with just giving us breadcrumbs is that you give us breadcrumbs and then we find out the show's canceled. You know, so hopefully that doesn't happen. You know what? Something crazy just happened. I just lowered my thumbs. Live.
No!
I just lowered them live. Yep. You talked me out of my 8.5. I was going 8. I decided tonight when I was out on my run, I was thinking about this video, and I was like, I'm going 8.5 thumbs because it's so unpredictable, and I don't know what the heck is going on, and the acting is good, and it's bizarre. But you're right. Nothing happened. Okay, in that season, really, when you zoom out. You got some character development. 8 thumbs.
Dang it. You just have to go a half step lower than me every time. That's what really
it wasn't because of that. It was because you talked me down.
Well, Brad, I'm sorry. You know, I guess that means my opinion really matters to you. And at the end of the day, that's a win. That's a win for me. So that's all I got, Brad. Unless you have anything else, I was just gonna thank everybody for watching today. We're at 121 subscribers. Help us get that back up there. I'm shooting for 150. I'm shooting for it, Brad. Tell us what you thought about Servant, the series so far, down in the comments, and we'll see you next time, but only from a distance.